All right, let's go on the record. CR 10-24-2407, State of Idaho versus Lance Jonathan Broncho. I have Randy Neal on behalf of the state. I have Mr. Broncho here along with one of his attorneys of record, John Thomas. We're here for an arraignment. Mr. Broncho, before you were brought to court today, did you have an opportunity to watch video that explained to you your rights and your plea options?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to just kind of touch base on those just to see if you have any questions. You have very particular rights under the Idaho and United States Constitutions. Those rights include the right to have this matter heard by a jury, your right to a speedy trial, your right to remain silent, which is basically your right against self-incrimination. You have a right to confront your accusers, and you have the right to present your own defenses to the charges. Do you understand those rights?
Yes, sir.
Do you have any questions of me regarding any of those rights?
No.
Today is your arraignment, and there was an information filed alleging you committed crimes in the state of Idaho. That was filed May 8, 2024. Did you have an opportunity to review that document?
Yes.
You have a right, Mr. Broncho, to have me read that document word for word, or you can waive that right and I can just summarize the charges against you. Do you want me to read it word for word, or would you waive that right?
Waive and have you summarize it, please.
Thank you. Preliminarily, Mr. Broncho, are you having any difficulty understanding me today?
No.
Do you read, write, and speak the English language?
Yes, sir.
Are you feeling well today?
Yes.
Are you under the influence of any alcohol, drugs, or controlled substances today?
No.
The information alleges your true and correct name is Lance Jonathan Broncho. Is this your true and correct name?
Yes, sir.
The information alleges 5 separate counts. I will note for the record, all counts are alleged to have occurred in Bonneville County, Idaho, and all counts are alleged to have occurred on or about March 9, 2024. Count 1 alleges the offense of murder 1. It is claimed that you, on that date, willfully, unlawfully, deliberately, and with malice aforethought, committed in the perpetration of or an attempt to perpetrate a robbery, burglary, or mayhem. You killed another individual by the name of Eric Leask, by shooting Mr. Leask in the commission of that robbery. If you're found guilty or you plead guilty, you could be subject to the possible penalty of death or life with a minimum of 10 years plus a $50,000 fine and restitution. Count 2 alleges the crime of aggravated battery using a deadly weapon or instrument. It's claimed that you unlawfully and intentionally caused bodily harm on the person of Ormead Smith by means of using a deadly weapon, basically a firearm. If you're found guilty or you plead guilty to that charge, you could be subject to 15 years of incarceration, a $50,000 fine, and restitution. Count 3 alleges robbery. It is alleged that you intentionally and by means of force or fear you took from either Ormead Smith or Eric Leask personal property, and this was accomplished against their will, and you did it by pointing a handgun at Mr. Smith and telling him to give you his property, to wit, a 9mm pistol and a wallet. If you're found guilty or you plead guilty to that charge, you could be subject to a minimum of 5 years of incarceration up to life in prison, a $50,000 fine plus $5,000 compensatory fine and restitution. Count 4 alleges burglary. It's claimed that you entered a certain house, 4th Street, which was the property of Mr. Eric Leask, with the intent to commit the crime of robbery. If you're found guilty or you plead guilty, you could be subject to 10 years incarceration, a $50,000 fine and restitution. Count 5 alleges unlawful possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. It is claimed that on that date you had in your possession a firearm, knowing that you had been convicted of a felony crime in the past, and that with that conviction you were not allowed to carry a firearm. If you're found guilty or you plead guilty, you could be subject to 5 years of incarceration and $5,000 fine. We'll also note that there has been a deadly weapon enhancement charge as part of this. What that means that is if you are convicted of either the murder charge or the aggravated battery with use of a deadly weapon, that there could be an enhanced penalty of an additional 15 years of imprisonment because of the use of the firearm and the commissions of those offenses. Mr. Broncho, do you understand all of those charges and the possible consequences of if you're found guilty of those charges?
Yes, sir.
I'm going to go through those. You have the right to, I'm going to ask if you plead guilty or not guilty to those charges. Count 1, murder 1, how do you plead, Mr. Broncho?
Not guilty.
Count 2, aggravated battery, use of a deadly weapon, how do you plead?
Not guilty.
Count 3, robbery, how do you plead?
Not guilty.
Count 4, burglary, how do you plead?
Not guilty.
And count 5, unlawful possession of a firearm by a convicted felon, how do you plead?
Not guilty.
All right, the clerk will enter those on the record. We'll note for the record, I did have a conversation with counsel in chambers with respect to scheduling. That is the only matter that we really discussed off the record. And given some factors that the parties raised, I think it's my intention to schedule a status conference in 60 days to see where those matters are at. So I won't schedule a trial at this point, understanding that Mr. Broncho still has his right to speedy trial and has not waived that today. Mr. Thomas, is it acceptable a status conference in about 60 days?
Yes, Your Honor.
Mr. Neal?
Yes, Your
All right, I will set a status conference for July 22nd at 9:30. We'll advise the parties if there's progress or the parties feel the need for a hearing before that date. Just advise Madam Clerk, and I certainly can take up the matter.
Very good, Your Honor. Thank you.
Mr. Thomas, anything else?
No, Your Honor, not at this time.
Mr. Neal, anything else?
We just have one more.
While you're looking, let me ask, Mr. Broncho, do you have any questions about what we did here today or what the plan is moving forward?
No, sir.
That's fine.
All right, then we'll be in recess on that matter. Mr. Broncho, you are excused. Thank you for being here. Mr. Thomas, is that your only matter with me?
That is, Your Honor. May I be excused?
You are also excused. Mr. Neal, is that your only matter?
Yes, sir.
You are also excused. Thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.